Hello, friends, and welcome to Worldbuild with us, the podcast where we create fantastical worlds with help from you, our listeners. My name is Rob Hilferty, and I'm here with my co-hosts, Courtney Staples and Johnny Law. And John, this is my first episode recording a regular episode with you where you're not an interviewee, so welcome to the fold. We're glad to add you to the Hall of Fame, and basically after this, no longer going to treat you like a special guest, so get used to the abuse now.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, of course. Glad to have you. Now, John, why don't you tell our listeners where we can find you and your stuff online?
Hey, everybody. Stoked to be here. Yeah, you can find me on YouTube at Johnny Law, JONNIELAW. Got a couple vids up there, mostly about narrative stuff and ttrpgs. It's actually called Roll for Narrative with Johnny Law. And I do some shorts more than anything lately because apparently you take like 15 minutes while walking your dogs and record something, and then you get the most views. So yeah, that's great. You can also find our shorts on OSR Plus on YouTube as well, because that is more fun.
I can fully sponsor the OSR Plus shorts. I do watch them and find them hilarious. So
you're in one.
Yeah. I think I'm in a couple, although there's one where I'm just a voice and not my face. So, you know. Frankly, not surprised, considering what I look like, but you know.
You show great on camera, man. Then you plugged Will in the back with 2 well-deserved crossbow bolts. So it's good.
Yeah,
showing.
No, he deserved that shit. Although
totally.
my character was absolutely insane.
Yes.
I'm sad that you cut out the Rorschach yell that I gave him, but that's totally okay.
Hey, there's still time to go back. I just got to make a cohesive story with it. You know, it's a minute long, so it's hard to do.
Okay, frankly, I don't think that's possible because that's just an unhinged moment. But boy, this intro is dragging on. So we've got an episode to shoot.
Yeah.
I know, right? So let's dive right into it. But before we dive right into it, I want to remind everyone that if you want us to build your world, you can always go to our website, worldbuildwithus.com, where you can click a bunch of links, follow some instructions, and within a reasonable amount of time, we'll be building your world. We're also in social medias. We've got a YouTube, like we were talking about. We've also got Twitter at Let's Worldbuild, or if you want to come and chat with us more directly, we're on Discord with a link for that in the description. Or if you're feeling particularly generous, just go ahead and give us money over on Patreon, where you get access to sweet patron-only goodies. And with all of the shilling out of the way, we've got a very fun episode of the Monster Mash today. John, again, because this is our first episode together, I'm very excited to work with you.
Stoked.
Yeah, absolutely. And as per tradition, because you are a special guest, you got to add 5 monsters to the Monster Mash list. So, John, can you explain to us what 5 monsters you added?
Oh, God. I was not ready for that. So off the top of my head, the hodag, which is a fun little North American cryptid on the West Coast, I believe, that has like a lot of hoaxes around it. It was basically like a amalgamation of different animals. It's like a crocodile and an elephant. Like it's basically not even like a chimera, but like it's just like a ridiculous hodgepodge that some guy tried to pass off as a real animal, and it actually kind of stuck a little bit. So that's fun. I thought you could go a lot of directions with that.
There certainly is. I mean, the inherent chicanery of the monster itself is a fun little thing, but there's also a music festival, I believe. Is that correct? Or am I thinking of another North American cryptid?
I'm thinking of hoedown when you say that, but you could have a hodag hoedown. That'd be pretty cool.
I believe that there's a hodag music festival, and
I wouldn't be surprised.
I'm pretty sure that
I just Googled it. It's a country festival. Yeah.
There we go.
It's a hodag hoedown.
And I mean, yeah, you're not wrong. It's got like tens of thousands of attendees too, so it's kind of outgrown the original cryptid nonsense. But yeah, okay. So we've got the hodag. What else is on there, John?
Sorry, I'm kind of stuck just in the fact. Do they sell hot dogs at the hodag hoedown? Or sorry,
I believe I think it would be a hodag hot dog, right?
Hodag hot.
You can get a hodag hot dog at the hodag hoedown.
It's like
where else we get that?
Fish stick shoved into a hot dog, like wrapped in Spam. So sticking with the H's, one of my favorite things from D&D as a kid, a hokar, which is a blind, vulture-looking animal that lives subterranean caves and has hooks on its hands, as the name would suggest. I don't know how much we're gonna find about them though, because that's kind of a just very niche thing. I think it's pretty much just Wizards of the Coast now.
Yeah, I know a little bit about the origin of that monster. There are a couple of monsters from the original D&D that are literally just one of the game designers having plastic toys, and then they're like, I feel like I can make monsters out of that from my Dungeons and Dragons game. And that is in fact what happened. And I believe that the Hook Horror is one of them.
I had the toy. Oh, that's good.
Oh, there you go. I imagine we're going to be getting into toys today because I just found out that John is a massive fan of Inhumanoids. And it's going to come up at some point. I'm going to force it if I need to, but Inhumanoids are making a special guest appearance today.
You have my full consent.
I'll just sit there and pretend that I know what you're talking about.
I swear to you, Courtney, I am so surprised that I never made you watch that, because it's like I watched that with like everyone practically. And the fact that I never forced you to baffles me. I'm sorry. Frankly, I failed you as a friend.
Let's move it to movie night.
How does it go? Yeah, movie night. That would be fun for that.
Oh, yeah. The first couple of episodes, which move incredibly fast, by the way, that'd be a good one. Yeah, that'd be fun. Anyway, sorry, John. We keep interrupting.
No, move it along. The only other one that needs real explanation is the Onryo, which is a Japanese ghost, mostly associated with scorned females, but there's a couple of famous male ones as well. But they're just like a vengeful spirit.
Yeah, the Ring is probably one of the more famous examples of the Onryo, right?
Yeah. Is that? I guess because it's like a haunting, vengeful
female ghost. Yeah.
For the most part,
cool.
Female. Sadako Yumura is the Ring ghost. Yeah. All right. Yeah. And then the other two, more ladies, Succubus, who one of my favorites as a child from D&D for different reasons. And then the other one are birdie gals, the sirens. That's many different variations of that through cultures. So,
there's a bunch of different ways that we can take the siren. Let's dive right into it, I suppose. Sweet. Right? Because we could be rolling the dice and not have to worry about any of these monsters from you, John. But frankly, it's been a thing where
it's been a little suspiciously convenient that whenever we have guests on.
I'm not even joking. Like whenever we have a guest, we seem to hit their monsters. John, I am curious to see how we roll for you. So let's go ahead and roll some dice and figure out which monster we're going to be focusing on for this episode. And today it's going to be, oh baby, I rolled a 9, which means we got vampires on the list today. That is definitely a Courtney monster. I know that. Well, first of all, does it surprise you that blood is involved and Courtney put it on the list? It shouldn't, unless this is your first episode, it should not at all surprise you. And with that being said, we've now got to find the genre and theme and focus of the vampire story that we're going to be telling. So the genre that we're rolling with is, well, we've got vampires in space because we rolled space opera for our first vampire jam. And then the theme we're working with is, the theme for our space vampires is glory. And the focus is a hero. So we've got a space opera with the theme of glory. A focus is on a hero, and the monster are vampires. So, John, because normally I would say, Courtney, you've got to explain to us vampires, but because you're a special guest, John, explain away, what are your first initial thoughts that we're working with here with space vampires?
Well, I mean, for better for worse, I hear vampire, I kind of go to Anne Rice's take on them. That's what I grew up with, besides Outside of Dracula and all that. But once it hit the space opera aspect, I'm starting to shift more. I'm kind of thinking like almost like more blood for the blood god kind of, vibes, where it's not like when you think of vampires are a smaller group of people, like maybe it's actually a large contingency of vampires in space, like aliens even.
Yeah. When I think of glory, I also think of like empire. So I can imagine there's like an empire, like the Sunless Empire, for example, where like vampires go around blotting out suns or just snuffing them out, you know, in honor of the glorious vampire emperor, you know. That's also up there for me. But we've also got a hero. So is it a vampire hero? Is it a hero against the vampires? Like, what direction do we want to take it? We've got so much to work with here.
I'm inclined to make it a hero of the vampires. They're maybe we could have them fighting against the tyranny of the suns in this case.
Yes. Oh,
and
yeah.
Switch it around so they're not like a dominant empire, but like a rebellion faction that's, you know, fighting against all the solar rays of space.
Oh man, I love the idea that like suns represent like chaos or chaos portals in some way, right? And I mean, like glory, right? We're also thinking like resplendence when I think of glory. So that is often related to the sun, like radiance, resplendence, you know, stuff like that. So yeah, that could work as well if we wanted to make, you know, pale goths are heroes of the story. I'm totally fine with that. And obviously, Courtney, yeah, that's up your alley too. So yeah, let's
just make it a Mary Sue. Let's just go full in.
So I was thinking, what if we incorporated like a Dyson sphere in it, where they actually blot out the sun, but you know they take the energy from it and still use it, and maybe to heat their worlds or whatever. And that's how vampires had started to spread about. But the whole thing is that they would actually take away the sun.
Ooh, so they have like a space station so large that it's a caged sun in some way?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like that's how their solar system is, the vampires, is that they, or that's why we eventually created Dyson spheres in the year 4,500 BDGD. Like it's a new time period.
Somewhere in the 40th millennium, maybe. Somewhere around there.
Yeah.
And they fight robots. No.
Hey, I love the Necrons. Don't even get me started about my love of Necrons, okay?
We could do some like kind of bullshitty human evolution thing where like maybe due to geoengineering to combat the current threat of climate change, the atmosphere gets blotted out, humans, a lot die off, but then the ones that survive adapt to live in the darkness. Shut up, Rob. This is totally legit.
I love this.
Only the Irish remain. Jesus Christ.
And then, you know, thousands and thousands and thousands of years later, we got vampires in space building Dyson spheres around the sun.
Okay. Oh boy. Yeah. Okay. So I suppose what we should be doing here, right, is I like the idea that we have a caged sun. I like the idea that this empire or this rebellious faction is using like technology to harness the sun while also blotting it out in some way. That's a cool thing. I like that a lot. Where does the hero come in? Because again, remember, the focus is the hero.
Yeah. I'm thinking that like it's some other invading force that comes in, and maybe that's where the idea of the tyranny of the suns comes in, where this other race is obviously very opposed to blocking out suns for whatever reason, or maybe they harness the energy in some way.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. Maybe the other race, what if they're like silicon based or like robotic in some way? So that just takes away the vampires like fucking whole biting necks.
Yeah.
And then B, they're coming for the energy from the Dyson sphere. Or maybe even the technology. Maybe they haven't come up with that for some reason. They have a block.
Or maybe they're just fucking solar powered and they need the sun back, you know?
Yeah.
Okay. So they're just trying to destroy it.
Totally not the Matrix.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh my God. Yes, it is the Matrix.
With the geoengineering and everything.
Damn it, Courtney! You've even got the people in trench coats in black. God damn you, Courtney.
Yes.
Yep.
Underworld meets the Matrix. That's how it's the elevator pitch, right there. It's Star Wars meets Underworld meets the Matrix.
Perfect.
I hate all of this so far. The only thing I like is the vampires with the caged sun. That's the only thing I'm keeping in my brain, but that's fine.
You just made me think Nicolas Cage should be the father vampire. We already did that, Renfield.
Yeah. Actually, I'm thinking like imagine Nicolas Cage, but in Gary Oldman makeup and costumes. Like that'd just be the best thing ever.
reverse that. Gary Oldman playing a vampire as Nicolas Cage.
See, but that's just caricature. I like the idea of having the costumes and makeup of Gary Oldman, but just Nicolas Cage doing it because he would treat it earnestly, and that's what I would love about it. You know,
I never actually saw the Gary Oldman.
Dracula? Yeah,
It's
Bram Stoker's.
What?
No, I never saw that.
Put that on movie night right now. That is
okay.
Oh my god. Oh
yeah.
My god, Courtney.
It's great.
I mean, Courtney,
Keanu's not so great, but
no, yeah, Keanu sucks. But there's lesbian vampires. It's so up your alley, Courtney.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, exactly. It just shot up 3 spaces on the list. I saw that. I heard that. Okay. Okay.
It is some good stuff.
Yeah, it is actually very good. Some of the cinematography is phenomenal, like world class phenomenal, and the costuming also phenomenal. You're right; it's got some of its problems, but
they're minor though. Like Keanu's not that he doesn't ruin it, but it's just so funny. Like he just who let him in?
No, he's bad, but only in comparison to Gary fucking Oldman and Anthony Hopkins. Like everyone's gonna look back. He plays Van Helsing, Courtney. Yes,
shit. Okay. Why didn't I know that?
Okay, we're recognizing some shit here, Courtney. That like, oh boy, all right. It just jumped up 4 more spaces, apparently.
I think I had always avoided it because I just heard that it was shitty because Keanu sucked in it.
No. It is quite good. It is quite good. Keanu does suck in it, but again, it's only compared to, and also objectively, there are some parts that are quite bad, but it's also compared to Gary Oldman and Anthony Hopkins. Like, of course, anyone's going to look at it.
Yeah. It's worth, but like Winona Ryder's good in it. Fucking Tom Waits is in it and is awesome. Like, it's a perfect role for Tom Waits.
Selma Hayek is in it too, right?
No,
Monica am I misremembering?
Sadie Frost. Maybe you think of Monica Bellucci?
Maybe.
Well, if Monica Bellucci's in it, I'd definitely watch it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, that's also high up on the list. Anyway, we are spiraling out of control here. Okay.
The rest of this is just to be us watching.
Yeah. If you'll notice a 3-hour runtime, it's because we stopped to watch Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Okay, what were we talking about?
Empire. We've got space opera. We've got vampire empire. By the way, do we feel like glory is an appropriate? Like that was my interpretation: is empire as glory? Is that appropriate to y'all, or do you think that we need to go somewhere else with it?
Yeah, no, I think it works.
Yeah, the hero would have to be fighting back against the robots for the glory of the vampire empire.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Or we could have it be like a really cheesy thing. I mean, not that vampires in space isn't already cheesy, but having glory as like it ends up being some sort of gladiatorial duel for supremacy or something like something more focused and intimate than just massive fights.
I want to give you the dumbest idea that popped into my head.
Dumber than that?
Yes.
Oh no, we can get
because when you said that, I'm like, what are the stakes? Right there've got to be stakes involved here. Not stakes as in vampire stakes, motherfucker, but like nice. Like other kind. Yeah. So I have this image of a hero vampire with a sword that expunges a sun. Like that is like the hero shot where they like martyr, like leap into a sun and extinguish it with some magic or technological sword. That's where my dumb brain went. And also, if you want to add just like 20% dumber, give them a mech to pilot while they're doing it.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, I know Courtney would hate that idea, but so that's what I got.
So I think you're getting a little too far ahead of ourselves, though. I think that's like the 3rd installment of the trilogy. That's how it ends.
Yeah, exactly.
Or maybe that's Act 2. Maybe that's the sad part on the set. I don't know. I think in this one though, a gladiatorial thing, it should be like the robots have already gotten here. It's about the rise of the hero, and at the last scene is a gladiatorial event because the robots have realized that it'll be mutual destruction if they go to war. So instead, they're like, we will send our hero, and like they have to have this like big battle. It's super cheesy, and like we somehow resurrect Freddie Mercury to do the soundtrack for it, a la Flash Gordon, and it'll be awesome.
I was gonna say it's just gonna be Princes of the Universe again. Like, come on. Let's. Oh,
I mean, this is ridiculous, but I kind of like it. Like, I do like that mutually assured destruction thing. Like, maybe the vampires, in desperation, once they realize that they're horribly outnumbered by these massive robot armies, like, they basically threaten to just fucking blow up the sun, since it's what the robots are after. And that's when the whole, like, oh wait, shit, okay, let's back up and try to approach this in a different way.
Okay, yeah, no, I agree. I think that, like, if we're treating this like a trilogy, this is the movie that opens up with, like, the Empire on the back foot, like the vampires on the back foot. Like, the robots just came in and cracked open one of the things, so there's a sun again for the first time, and, like, there's a retreat. And then this is about the rising of a hero, right?
Yes,
it's like, oh, things look lost and hopeless. For the glory of the Empire, let's go, let's do it. You know what I mean?
Because then that leaves room for prequels.
Yep, of course. Oh, of course.
Go back, like, the prequel trilogy. Boom.
Yeah.
You know, that's how the vampires rose to power.
Yes.
And the hubris that put them in the position that they are in the beginning of episode 4. Wow, that sounds really familiar.
I mean, well, no, you've got the Vanimatrix as well, which is the vampire animatrix that explains the prequel part.
Yeah. I do really like that image, though, of, like, the robots breaking into the Dyson sphere, and like what that would look like a single crack letting out a ray of sun into space.
And, like, immediately, like, wiping out some of the, imagine, like, that the sun is just a super weapon, right? So like, they're concentrating sunbeams and, like, literally ashing, like, a bunch of vampires and vampire ships, like, all at once, which is a cool image, right? You know, like, and in any other series, we'd be like, yeah, kill those vampies. And it's like, no, we want, you know, like, those are our heroes because Courtney made them humans somehow. Yeah.
No, it's it makes me think of back to, what was it, Land of a Thousand Suns, that ended up having those robots who are solar powered, and they tortured humans for science.
I was actually thinking of that. Yeah. The torture murder robots that you created. Yes. I do remember that. Yeah. I was thinking that too, Courtney. That's so funny that we're on the same page about that.
Wait, like, the robots were the vampires all along.
Actually, kind of. Like, you're not too far off, John.
Yeah.
I like this. There's always a bigger fish. Yeah, I would love, you know, a close up after the raid beams up of, like, some old vampire that we met in the very beginning, and he just, like, says something along lines like a million voices crying out all at once and being silent. I don't know. We'll have to workshop that a little bit.
Hard no on that one. Yeah. Honestly, that's a shit line. I don't know who would ever read that. Like, certainly no distinguished British actor.
No.
Yeah.
Go for a beer right now for some reason. Why do I like a dark stout from Ireland? Maybe I don't know. Maybe just talking about Ireland. Anyway. Who else is in this though?
Well, I mean, do we need more than the two empires that we have? Also, well, I suppose we should explain, like, vampires. Okay, they're humans, right? Courtney made them humans for some reason. Well, what about the robots? Where do the enemy robots come from? What's their deal?
Land far, far away, I thought.
Yeah, just somewhere in space.
Well, when I was saying from a space opera standpoint, don't we need another, like, the rest of the cast of characters, like a love interest and the mentor and, like, you know, whatever, like, goes into that genre?
To me, space opera is always about scope and scale. And, like, I feel like we've got that pretty well. Like, we're intergalactic already, baby, you know? So I'm just trying to figure out, like, what are the robots deal? Are they just a robe empire? Like, what are we, or is it something else? Like, are they the scouting force for a greater power that's coming through, right?
I'm thinking that too. That way we can have, like, a sequel trilogy too.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay.
Courtney, truly thinking of the merchandising opportunities here, Courtney.
Oh, I'm already sketching out the toys right now. My initial thought was that they were, like, they spread, like, as they see civilizations popping up and able to generate this massive power, they kind of, like, make their way through the galaxies to get like that. But I don't mind having someone behind them, like a supreme being of robots, or maybe they're not robotic. Maybe they create the robots.
See, when you said spread, I thought you meant, like, the individual robots themselves spread. Like, the sunlessness constricts the form to a more robotic and, like, perhaps humanoid looking shape. But as soon as they're hit with sunlight, they like explode into like nano tendrils or like
Ooh.
some kind of like more powerful form that is unleashed because they're able to actually absorb the sun.
Oh,
You
that's
know,
cool.
so yeah, like that moment where the sunbeam obliterates like a vampire fleet.
Yeah.
Not only is it terrifying, but like all of a sudden you see like the robot soldiers that they were fighting previously explode and become way more powerful. Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
and that could also be a fun thing to work around, like how the hero comes, he somehow figures out a way to
Mhm.
temporary blot sun, or he's got the sun eater sword, whatever it is,
Yeah, see there.
Yeah.
See, we're getting to it.
Nice.
We're getting to that moment where he blots out the sun. It's
Yeah.
happening.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm a fan of this, even though it's like fucking ridiculous. I love it.
It is. Listen, Daniel's not here. We don't have to pay attention to science, okay?
Oh, totally. Yeah.
It's a space opera.
Yeah.
Exactly. It
Who
should
cares?
be a little dumb, frankly.
Yeah.
Okay. Do we want to move on to the next vampire setting that we're working with, or do we want to talk about the hero a little bit more? Because considering that we focused so much on the setting, we have nothing to know about this hero yet. But I'm cool just leaving it be and like letting people create their own hero.
Yeah, I'm fine letting it be.
Okay. So great. I love some vampire cheese to go along with the space opera. I'm here for it.
Mm-hmm.
Let's move on. Let's roll some dice and figure out where the vampires are going next. All right. So the genre the vampires are going to next is we've got a classic sword and sorcery take with a theme of rot and decay. And the focus is a discovery. So we've got sword and sorcery with a theme of rot and decay with a focus on discovery. So, Courtney, what are you thinking this time? What have we got in store for our vampires?
Yeah. So since last time we made the vampires heroes, I definitely want to make them the villains this time.
As you do.
As vampires tend to be. And to kind of delve into what vampires are at their core, I feel like it's mainly revolves around the consumption of usually blood, but some sort of energy from others. So like kind of psychic vampires, energy vampires.
Yes.
Shout out to Colin Robinson, of course.
Colin Robinson.
It is effectively like essence draining, right? Like you're preying on someone's living essence, something that they require to live, right? Energy is also a good way to look at it. So where does the rot and decay come from?
Yeah. So recently I rewatched Conan the Barbarian, and that
Classic.
I feel, it's like an excellent sword and sorcery action movie. Oh, excellent is maybe a stretch, but it's solid. It's enjoyable.
I would say it's good. It's a good movie. Yeah.
It's iconic.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
That too. But I also think that because it's iconic, people have like a weird like simulacra of what it is in their head. And it's actually probably better than the creation that you have in your head.
Yeah, actually. I was surprised rewatching it. It had been a little while since I'd seen it, and it was like, oh, this is actually like pretty, solid. Like it has flaws certainly, but it's it's good. It's enjoyable.
It's dated, it has flaws, but it tells a cool story, and like it is known for what it is because of the fact it actually does have a cohesive and kind of intriguing fantasy story, especially if people weren't doing that much around that time.
Yeah. So with Conan, that definitely gives me the idea of like a vampire overlord who's sort of taking over the countryside, imprisoning people to use as blood bags, essentially.
Right.
And then, of course, like spreading rot and decay over the land.
Yes.
Maybe he's also attempting to block out the sun in certain ways. If you want to keep using that theme, or they could just be somewhere that doesn't get a lot of sunlight.
Like a dark tower?
What are we in fucking Salem's Lot over here? Like,
not the Stephen King one. Return to Dark Tower, the fantastic game.
Well, what we can also do is we can just say like, hey, that part of the vampire mythos does not affect our current vampires, right? Like, Because part of
yeah.
it is just like the interpretation of the vampire, right?
Yeah. And there's also like in Dracula, the book, I don't think he like instantly died in sunlight, right? Like he could still be out. It was just he was weak.
It was painful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. He also just gets like stabbed and shot to death in that book rather than like actually staked. Like the staking happens, but it's spoiler character who gets staked instead. Anyway, so okay.
Would you say it was a mistake?
Well, no, because they absolutely nailed the fuck out of her. So no.
Touche.
So okay, Courtney, here's I agree with you completely so far, right? That there is a vampire menace spreading blight, rot, decay, all that good stuff. Couple of things, right? Because the focus is supposed to be a discovery. I love the idea that the discovery was the tomb of this vampire. And what I also like is that it's not just like a series of vampires. Let's make it a vampire, or perhaps the vampire, right?
Yeah,
like this is like a mega powerful creature. And maybe what we can also do is rot and decay also come with like the spread of their version of vampirism in some way, you know? So it's like when you get bit, you're not enthralled and turn into spawn. Like maybe you're just like, it is a bubonic plague effect of some kind. And that is the kind of rot and decay that we got going on there too. So imagine that there's like excavation and then there's like a seal, like a tomb that's sealed. And then all of a sudden like crack it open. And just like what would happen with mummies and mummy curses, right? Like a virulent plague or like bacteria would start fucking people up. That's what I'm going to start with. Like we can integrate that into the other stuff that we've been talking about thus far though.
I could also see then like this vampire using like holding that over people's heads as like stringing them along with promises of like, oh, I can cure you. I can eventually turn you into a vampire like me. You just have to follow me and like join my cult basically. And that's how he's amassed this huge following.
Absolutely. Yeah. Oh, okay. So it's not like you're enthralled by the vampire. Like you can choose to rot and die through this disease, but the vampire has like a coercive effect. Like I will keep you relatively healthy, right? And as soon as you start to piss me off, I will let the plague overtake you. Like that's the kind of thing. Because then what happens, right? You're setting up the treacherous lieutenant to have that heroic sacrifice where you see his skin blacken and boil with pustules as he's like dying. Of course, it's plague, Courtney. Of course it's gross. But like you have that cinematic moment where it's like, I choose to die on my feet. And then like, it's like, well, you don't have any knees because they're rotted away now, you know, like that kind of thing. You can't kneel anymore. But yeah, you get my point, right? Like that's a really cool way to see it. Like it's not enthrall. It's like, it's coercive service due to like, hey, do you want to keep living? You can be a vampire thrall. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Also the idea of like, control through disease is also really interesting. And please don't demonetize us, YouTube. We're not talking about the last couple of years, I promise. Like, we're not taking ivermectin.
Oh God, YouTube has canceled us already.
Exactly. Finally, we're going to get one of those like, this YouTube video requires more context and has like a Wikipedia article attached to it.
So I alluded to it earlier, but I have been playing a lot of the game Return to the Dark Tower, which is fantastic. And one of the that's making me think of is something along those, like it would totally fit into that setting, is that, like you said, they discovered this tomb or something like that. They unleashed this plague, this rotting plague, but I think it also activated the vampire, either through the plague or maybe he was in the tomb as well.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's what I had in mind too. Yeah, for sure.
And he was sealed there ages ago by the denizens of this world. And now you have to have these like 4 heroes from different parts of the world rise up, and they have to find like the other tombs to figure out how to close this main tomb. Like that's where the sword and sorcery aspect comes in.
Yeah, I was also thinking that like if you're doing sword and sorcery, like the plague is going to be like the setting, you know, like grim, gritty, dark. You have like plague mask aesthetics and stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
Also off podcast, I would direct your attention to the Discord where I just sent a GIF.
Oh.
After 10,000 years, I'm
Yeah.
free.
I'm
It's
free.
perfect. Look, we've got Rita Repulsa. Also, fuck it. This is on podcast now. Fuck it. I don't care. We've got Rita Repulsa. I want the vampire to be a woman. Fuck it. I want real
That
Rita
works, yeah.
Repulsa vibes. Yeah.
So once again, going back to Dark Tower, the Mistress of the Plague that's one of the characters. She's Empress of Shades. And she's the one that is
Nice.
released.
It sounds like I should get into this role-playing game, John.
It's actually a board
Not the role play
game.
game.
Not a,
Yeah, it's an expensive board game.
Okay.
Totally worth it though.
You say that, but I could just come hang out with you and play it, I guess, right?
Well, exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. You can play it by yourself. That was the main driving factor for me getting it. And I've played probably 30 hours of it by myself. That's awesome.
Nice. Nice.
But I grew up with the game, so it's very near and dear to my heart. This
Gotcha.
version they did. Anyway,
Yeah.
getting off topic.
No. Daniel has a copy too, and I want him to have more free time so I can go play with him more.
Good luck.
I know.
Good fucking luck.
It's so fun.
Yeah. So I suppose what we should look at here, because already like all of this is fucking awesome, right? Like plague-ridden landscape. We've got sword and sorcery. We've got a vampire who controls people through play. Love that, right? What are we missing here? I feel like there's just one element that like feels like we're missing something that's like particularly spicy or unique.
Yeah, like we haven't talked about magic a whole lot yet, and that is half of sword and sorcery. I think that could be a fun thing to include as like something to fight back against the vampire, perhaps.
We haven't talked about swords either.
No, that's true. Yeah.
I think the whole sword and sorcery thing needs a lot of fluffing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe that's the question we go with next is what thematically about sword and sorcery do we apply here directly to be like, yes, we nailed it. We got it in one. Or maybe just two. We might need to nail it in two. I don't know.
So my initial thought was going back to saying like these different kingdoms that are coming together. I was really tempted to make them Power Rangers, but I'm not going to do that. But the different areas, I think maybe one is very magical focus. Maybe the other one is more like the totally just steal Dark Tower now. Overlordy kind of barbaric focus, and then they each have different aspects of the tropes. Like there's a whole set of rangers that are famous for the woods, like taking like all those tropes.
For the woods. They're famous for the woods, John.
For the woods. That's what they say.
That's their battle cry.
That's their battle cry.
Yeah.
For the woods.
I see.
with magic as like a focus of one of these kingdoms, like maybe in particular it is a type of healing magic that they discover perhaps that can actually fight the plague.
Can cleanse?
Yes, can cleanse, similar to the game itself. Yes, we're just completely taking it. Yeah, that's fine.
Yep.
But yeah, some kind of cleansing magic.
I'm completely ignorant of this thing, so it's like I don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
Totally original ideas here.
Return to the dark.
This just feels like when we were doing the BioShock one, and none of you recognized that I was just doing a BioShock. Okay, but I like the idea of like we basically got Gauntlet the Nations, right?
Yes, exactly.
However, a couple of things here. One, what I like about sword and sorcery is that it's typically a lot more low magic, and when it comes to magic, it's usually like chanting and rituals in it. It takes a lot of effort to get a little bit of magic going, or oftentimes like the result of that magic is like, I've summoned a gorilla that is stronger slightly than a regular gorilla. Like that's the kind of magic that I'm kind of interested in sword and sorcery. I love how like low power and like very gritty and human sword and sorcery type stuff is. So I like the idea that we have a nation that is focusing on cleansing. However, what I also like, or at least would appreciate, is this idea that, they can keep the key people alive. And by key, I mean those in power. But I feel like for the rest of people, it's a matter of we don't have the resources to keep everyone plague free.
Yeah. It could be like a holy water type of thing where they have to do these rituals to cleanse and purify certain water, like a certain amount of it. And that's like all they can spare at once. It could also be, if we really want to like get into the more Conan-y vibe, we could have something where like people are sent from the kingdoms as sacrifices to this vampire queen.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the heroes come in, where perhaps these kingdoms have devised a plan to like put certain people together so that they can fight back once they're inside.
Interesting.
Courtney, I have a blood-riddled idea that I'm sure that you will love, right? So you were saying that we need to create holy water here, right? Like in order, because have this image of like the baptismal, right?
Yeah.
What if we had a bunch of bloodletting? Because that way we can keep the blood element of vampires, but also like we have an Elizabeth Bathory-style, like we need to cleanse people. It's horrific. And that's why it requires so much energy. It's because you're literally requiring like blood to do the ritual, to keep people, you know,
Is it a sacrifice? Do you have to use blood from the one to save the other, like that kind of thing? Or
and mind you, it can be collective, right? So you can do it, but like it is a very like low rate of return, right? So it's like you need like 5 people's worth of blood to heal one person. So again, the power exists, or like you can even crank up the ratio even higher there if you really wanted to. But like you can do it, but it's not cost efficient to do it that way. You know what I mean? And obviously capitalism is making me look at humans as though they are commodities, but hey, that's not me, guys. That's just how capitalism works. Anyway, moving on.
It also adds an element of like each of the maybe each of the nations or worlds or whatever that they're uniting. Maybe they're not all in it like together necessarily.
Yeah.
Maybe they're trying to save their own people.
Yeah, that could be it.
Full internal conflict.
Okay, the more that I'm talking about this, the more that I like the idea that we're not even going after the vampire in this setting. It's more like, listen, we've got a lot of like intrigue and political shit happening. The vampire just so happens to be the reason for a lot of it. And like, we're not playing the Alucards and the Belmonts of the world. We're playing the people who are just trying to survive. And like, maybe you've got a relative who you're trying to collect enough blood sacrifice for to keep them alive from the plague. And like, maybe you're just trying to buy yourself enough time where the plague doesn't take you or something like that. There's so much that we can do there.
Yeah. Though one of the things that I liked or found interesting about Conan rewatching it is the fact that like the climax is just kind of like, spoilers, he walks up to James Earl Jones's character and like cuts off his head.
And just chops his fucking head off. Yeah, exactly.
Like, like there wasn't it's just there wasn't like a massive fight at the very end at his temple. It was just like, hey, I'm here now. I'm gonna
that's like midway.
Whack your
it's or like 2/3, right? Where they have that big climactic fight.
Yeah,
the
like
2/3 mark.
Infiltration and like a big fight, and then like at the very end, Conan shows up and is like, all right, I'm just gonna take the sword to your neck, and we're good. All right, it's cleared. We're good.
All badass.
So like with that in mind, like I'm picturing with the Elizabeth Bathory imagery, like having this vampire queen lounging in pools of blood in her temple or whatever, and like maybe that is what gets cleansed at the very end. Like our cleric person sacrifices themselves to cleanse that pool of blood and like fucks up the vampire.
Well, they need to discover a new way. It's this discovery, you know?
Yeah.
So it's maybe that's like, you know, maybe the cleric's the one that we're following if this was a movie or a book or something like that. But then you have these other guys, and there's definitely like one country that's like the rich country, and they're the ones that are out to like get it for themselves, and they represent capitalism. And then like, you know, then you have the other magical one that's like shady but really has a heart of gold.
John, it's capitalism all the way down here. Okay, like
always,
like that. Let's focus up on that idea a little bit more. The discovery aspect, I think, is good because, again, it's discovery of the tomb, but now let's also the discovery of maybe not a cure, because I don't necessarily want it to be like, it's done.
A better way.
Quickly. A better way. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
A more sustainable one.
Yeah, maybe it fucks up the vampire queen, but doesn't totally get rid of her. Like she's still able to flee.
The plague lingers, but she's gone.
Yeah, but maybe like the pool of blood that she had, they've purified that so they can use that as treatments for the time being. But who knows what's going to happen when that runs out.
That's fun. Yeah, I like the idea that the element of the plague is still around. I like the idea that like there's a much more finite cure, especially because you're just going to turn that into like a bidding war or like outright military war, right? Maybe it's like the spring or like something that like it's a tree that does it or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, oh, okay. So one of my favorite modules is the Sunless Citadel, where there is like an ancient grove that is pure evil and it sprouts from the corpse of a vampire, right? Like the stake that they staked them with grew into a tree and that tree created twig blights, right?
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, like great module, amazing design work, really, really good. We could do something like that, but rather than have it be like evil, like the corpse is like staked, and then from that creates a tree that then creates fruit that then can like heal the plague in some way. So again, still super limited. It's a super finite supply, but now we have like literally a tree of life or a tree
another option.
Exactly right.
I like that.
I think that's what they're going to go with, Raised by Wolves. I think that's what they were going to go with, but they didn't get to because the show was not good.
Wow, oh boy,
it wasn't, man. I watched it all on it just recently, and it wasn't. The one guy, father, was the only good part about it. Everything else was garbage, and it got so weird at the end.
I'm glad that Daniel's not here because he would fight you on that.
Yeah, I know he loves it. I don't get it though. I actually haven't talked to him about it because I don't get it just started going off the rails.
Yeah, I did. You know what? Like we're all allowed to have our own opinions, and sometimes Daniel has shit taste, and that's okay.
Vanderpump Rules.
No. His hatred of Pacific Rim is like
I'm indifferent.
You know,
no, but he does also watch Vanderpump Rules a lot, which is hilarious.
He loves it.
Okay, but that's like me liking The Bachelor. You know, like that's okay. You know, like as long as he recognizes that I don't think he's sitting here and like Vanderpump Rules is high culture, like whatever. No. He knows that it's trash.
He knows what it is.
He's
exactly.
Although Lisa Van, but not Lisa Van. I'm the only one talking. Why am I talking about this? Moving on.
So before this goes even further off the rails with Lisa Vanderpump, I suppose that we should pivot to our third and final vampire setting that we're dealing with here.
Please, yes.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that one, Courtney. It's very strange. We got like very traditional kind of settings for vampires, I feel like. And let's see if the third one, if we can get a different genre this time. Let's see what we got. We've got...
Is space opera traditional vampire?
Courtney, shut the fuck up.
Don't be right.
No, but like, I mean, like in terms of like genre, we've got very vanilla type stuff. And speaking of vanilla, okay, we literally could not be more vanilla than hitting gothic horror for our final genre of vampires, of course. The theme this time, maybe the theme will save us. Our theme this time is mystery. Generic, we can work with it. It's fine. And finally, the focus is the rise of a new era.
Oh, okay.
So we've got the rise of a new era. We've got mystery as our theme. The genre, gothic horror, vampires involved in some way. I'm getting real Fall of the House of Usher vibes.
Yeah,
you know,
because gothic horror is generally very like bleak and focused on small
death.
Well, death, yeah, but in terms of like really focused on a small cast generally.
Yeah, it's a much smaller scale in terms of what we're looking at usually, and I would agree with that, Courtney. So if that's the case, here's what I would love to have us focus on. One, I would like to go more metaphorical vampire here. And two, when we're thinking of the rise of a new era, how about the dawn of the age of medicine? So I'm thinking that like, Courtney, you love the Nick, right?
Yeah.
I'm thinking like we're dealing with early days medicine where like the anatomical books are still wrong. And so there's still a lot of experimentation. And the vampiric aspect is not literal. It's not like I'm a doctor who needs blood to live. It's more a matter of like metaphorically taking the lives of others to try and like, maybe it's literally about discovering blood transfusion or understanding the mysteries of like blood in some way. But again, we keep it small. We keep it, we can just keep it in a particularly spooky hospital if we really wanted to keep it to a micro setting. Yeah. And then go from there, right? Because I feel like that's a good way to kind of approach this particular thing.
Maybe about AIDS.
Oh.
Just AIDS.
Hold on.
Just AIDS.
Well, I mean, that's the 1980s, not the 1880s.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I'm saying, but it's like old AIDS.
There's so many other things that you could have said there. There's so many old-timey diseases that you could just run with.
Victorian AIDS. That's it.
Victorian AIDS.
What's the mystery? If you already know that it's that, then what, like...
Who gave me AIDS? That's the mystery. 5 got full-blown Victorian AIDS. That's a mystery right there.
Is Victorian AIDS just syphilis?
No, that's AIDS and syphilis.
Listeners,
are very different.
You cannot see me with my head in my hands right now, but it's planted. I'm not looking at the screen. Yeah.
You know, sometimes the best answer is the easiest answer, and that answer is Victorian AIDS.
That is quite literally not the easiest answer we could go with, John.
So bypassing that for a second and talking about the setting, you were saying hospital, Rob, and I could see either a hospital like that show The Nick, or we could have it be like a new doctor shows up in a small town and opens up a clinic, or maybe he shows up to replace a doctor who left or who passed or something, and like a small frontier kind of vibe to it. And then things start to like go wrong after this doctor shows up.
Okay, hear me out. And maybe this is dumb. In fact, I'm going to roll the dice on that one. What if it's like we roll into a new town where there is a serial killer, or maybe it's killed a nobleman or something like that. And mind you, this is like Victorian noblemen, so they're all super inbred or whatever.
And so they all have Victorian AIDS, yeah.
God damn you, Courtney. God damn you. No. What I'm suggesting is that there is a way that, because we can turn it into a literal murder mystery, because our theme is mystery. So we can turn it into a whodunit, right? Keep the cast small, the town small, what have you. And then because this person's a doctor who's able to collect and maybe even sample blood or use blood in a way that helps them discover it, they get like this kind of like, it's an investigator who uses blood. It's a doctor who uses blood. Dr. Blood, let's say, right?
Yeah.
But
Dr. B.
The idea is that this is the metaphorical vampire here, because they are a doctor. So they've got like elbows deep in like cadavers and gore. And so they're going to be looked upon by the villagers, the superstitious ones, as a vampire of some kind, right? And so in reality, he's just trying to figure out what's going on, you know, and because it's the dawn of a new era, right? Like medical advancement. Maybe that's what it is. We turn it into like Columbo, but blood and a doctor.
for the doing experimentation stuff, like it could be that a person or some people go missing, and it's not that he's like killed them, but like has kept them alive as like vivisection subjects, and also like infinite source of blood.
Yeah, see, I wasn't treating him as a villain. I was treating him as like a good character who uses questionable medical techniques.
What about taking it like a Midnight Mass kind of way, where it's like this?
Well, wait, hold on. Spoilers, Courtney, have you seen that yet?
Yeah, I've seen it twice.
But where, you know, Dr. B. Ludd comes to this new hospital, this Gothic hospital, with his new, methods and whatnot, and starts helping. But there's a mystery that people are getting better, but then there's also people disappearing and that kind of thing. And that's
right. And I like the idea that Dr. Ludd, which by the way, too ethnic for this particular area in history, right? But
no, his last name Ludd. He's Dr. Bartholomew Ludd, Dr. B. Ludd.
Exactly. Still too ethnic for the area, John. That's what I'm saying. That we're dealing with super racists here, right? Like these are phrenologists. But
Victorian level racism here. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like the type of racist who even Victorians would be like, that's a bit much there, Reginald. But no, I like the idea that new doctor arrives, starts saving people, other people go missing, and it's now up to him to figure out what's going on, because you can also play with like where the camera goes. Like, you know, like there's a mystery, like, did Dr. Blood do it? Like his name's Dr. Blood. Like, you don't know,
Could be anybody. Who knows?
Yeah. Frankly, by the way, John, I'm surprised you didn't go with Dr. Acula. Like that's the much easier way to go with that one.
Well, you said Dr. Blood, so I was riffing off that still.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah.
Dr. Acula is a good one.
No, that's good. That way we can have both the villain, quote unquote, vampire, and then also the Columbo hero figure.
Yeah.
I like that.
Okay, that's fun. We've got a nice split there. I feel like we should keep that one short and sweet, so we don't, this again. Who knew that Daniel was one half of a rail? I didn't even recognize it.
I mean, we didn't have to leave anything for him to subvert. That's the whole.
Honestly, you know what? Yeah, maybe this was a bit too by the numbers because of the lack of Daniel. You're right. Yeah. Well, anyway, I feel like that's a good place to end it. We've got a fun little scenario. We've got a cat and mouse game between like the doctor and the vampire.
I'm glad too that we got like way more blood in there, because I was concerned that we would only have one of these camps really focused on blood. So
yeah, well, I mean, realistically, Courtney, I mean, what you could do is like if this new doctor came to replace the old one, maybe what you can do is you can keep all your living vivisectionist like victims. And there's the old doctor didn't leave. He just went insane and started like, just went out into the mists and the moors somewhere. And like they discover like, oh yeah, no, that doctor's still around. Like it's the red herring that, oh, look, they're using surgeon's implements or what have you. And like that kind of thing.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to point out something real quick.
Go ahead, John.
When you think of a vampire, I typically think of three things. The whole sunlight thing, the whole blood thing, and the whole like, infecting people or like mind control and all that.
Yeah.
We literally just did each one separately. Like the one was about the sun and didn't really have the other stuff. The other one was about the control, didn't really have the sun or the blood. This one's about the blood, doesn't have the sun or the control. Like, I think that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I mean, breaking down monsters to component parts and then working with them individually is kind of what the MASH is all about,
Yeah. And I did try to bring blood into the second one more, because the first one obviously blacked it. So that's why I was like, oh, we could have our vampire queen like bathing in the blood and use that for the cure kind of thing. But
yeah, call me a tampon, because I tried to stop as much blood as I could. So
wow.
Wow. Never say that phrase again, ever.
Well, I'm just trying to end the episode here, Courtney. I'm just trying to stop. I'm just trying to stop the flow of episode. Please.
Oh God. Okay. Please end it now. Put it out of its misery.
Take it out back.
Oh God.
Look at the flowers episode. Look at the flowers.
Yeah. All right. So with that glorious crescendo, we're going to end this episode. Remember that if you want us to build your world, you can always go to our website, worldbuildwithus.com, click the link, follow the instructions, all that good stuff. We're also on social media, YouTube, Twitter. Find us there, follow us, subscribe, all the good stuff that you want to do. Discord, if you want to come and disown me personally, you can do it on our Discord. Or if you want to cancel your subscription to our Patreon, you would go that by going to our Patreon and I don't know how to unsubscribe. You know what? Let us know how to do that once you're there. Okay. Totally understandable. John.
Yes, sir.
Tell us where we can find you and your stuff, please.
You can find me on YouTube at Johnny Law, JONNIELAW. And you can also see our OSR Plus shorts at OSR Plus on YouTube.
Fantastic. John, great to have you on an episode. Great to work with. Well, that I'm also on, right? Because you know, you've been on other episodes, but I don't listen to that shit. I don't listen to this episode. Anyway, that's going to do it for this episode of World Build with us. Remember that we love you very much. We're going to get through this together. Until next week.